right. I'll move on then to the strategic buckets week and some of the questions that came up around that. Um, we have one from Allison and Christine. They both had questions about involving unions in the strategic bucket process and how, whether or not that could be beneficial, and what to do when there are no true performance objectives for any person that goes towards the success or failure of that project. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So yeah, there's a couple of things they're dealing with there, and some of them revolve around perception because there's almost always some performance metric and objective that's attached to your role. So, everyone has a boss or a supervisor, and they're measuring your performance in some way. So there is an objective. You might not know it, and maybe that's what's being expressed here, is that those personal goals are not being articulated well, performance goals. And so for the employee at the lower level, there's no sense that what they're doing is contributing to the objectives of the company. They're just kind of coming in, doing their job, especially in a union environment, which sort of protects that work experience. So, long time ago, I worked in a UPS loading facility, the union job, and what I recall from that experience is if I was asked to do something outside of my realm of responsibility, all I had to do was ask the line manager, the union rep, and they would straighten that out right away. So it really seems like a mechanical working experience. And so I can see how it would be difficult to even conceptualize how at the upper end in management, the top level, they are developing strategic buckets, and they do impact what you do on a daily basis. Well, what I would say about that is that the top-down and bottom-up principle, as they apply to strategic buckets, are scalable in a sense. So there's strategic buckets that apply to the whole organization, and there's the top of the organization and the bottom of the organization. But there's also a top and bottom to each line of business, functional team, and then, a small working crew. There's always someone who's supervising and someone who's doing most of the work in most cases. So if you can seek alignment at that level and begin to have conversations about from the bottom up, how is this what I'm doing? How is what you're asking me to do affecting the strategy for our department, or what is the strategy for our department? And I believe that will work in a union environment, because the union has a separate set of at least strategic goals. They might not be placing them into exact buckets because they're more task oriented. They're driving to they may fall into one of the larger buckets, but they have functional focuses around safety, around their quotas for delivery, and actually how much shifting around during a work shift that they have to do of personnel. So there's all types of things that tie into the larger strategic buckets from the very top down that, at the core of it, it's always going to be communication. And that really the best communication, unfortunately, sometimes starts from the bottom up. So in those roles where you're feeling like you're not connected to any type of overall strategy, and I know that's true in education as well. In large universities, I hear that quite a bit. You can seek out that kind of connectivity to the overall strategy by asking questions from the bottom up, and then eventually proposing ways that you can conduct your job as you gain more insight into what maybe the overall strategy or how you fit into one particular strategic bucket, and start to propose to your immediate supervisor, hey, what if we try this? I think this would fit into the overall strategy. You may hit a dead end, you may not, but at least you begin to have the conversation. And from the top down, it's always the onus of a large organization to communicate a strategy. Not very many organizations are extremely good at that. But even at the mid-level of management, that same principle is applicable and scalable, wherein they can start to ask questions about, or they can collaborate with other mid-level managers and have conversations about, what are you guys doing this month? Do you know why you're doing it? Well, this is what we're doing. Well, why do you think this is, and have those conversations. I think that can spread some better alignment in any company, including one that's unionized, over time. But it does take a few people asking questions.
Yeah, and I also think building some sort of empathy with the union perspective is really critical to that success as well.
Yeah, they're not an autonomous organization inside another organization. They're part of the company, and
Right.
and their management has insight into the overall scheme of things. They just might not always share it openly.
Yeah. Yeah.